wonder who he can be. Somebody loves me, I wish I knew. Who can he be? Worries me. For every guy who passes me, I shout, hey, maybe you were meant to be my loving baby. Somebody loves me, I wonder who. Maybe it's you. Somebody loves me, I wonder who. I wonder who he can be. Somebody loves me, I wish I knew. Who can he be? Worries me. For every guy who passes me, I shout, hey, maybe you were meant to be my loving baby. Somebody loves me, I wonder who. Maybe it's you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for some Valentine's Day romance. Some sweet, some funny, some from today, and some from many generations ago. I'm Craig Johnson from Yellow Tree Theater, and we've gathered together a troupe of actors to present a bouquet of stories and poems and songs, our Valentines to you. So, let's get started with some great authors who just can't stop writing about love.
You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. I have loved none but you.
If I had a flower for every time I thought of you, I could walk in my garden forever.
He was my north, my south, my east, my west, my working week, and my Sunday rest.
Romance is everything.
I have learned not to worry about love, but to honor its coming with all my heart.
Each time you happen to me all over again.
I know by experience that the poets are right. Love is eternal.
Then he kissed her. At his lips' touch, she blossomed, and the incarnation was complete.
It has made me better loving you. It has made me wiser and easier and brighter.
Love loves to love love. Love loves to love love. Love loves to love love. Love loves to love love.
And great philosophers who just can't stop thinking about love.
Love is a single soul inhabiting two bodies.
Of all the passions, love is the strongest, for it attacks simultaneously the head, the heart, and the senses.
In love, one and one are one.
Love is a serious mental disease.
There is no remedy to love, but to love more.
Any man who can drive safely while kissing a pretty girl is simply not giving the kiss the attention it deserves.
Love can change a person, the way a parent can change a baby, awkwardly and often with a great deal of mess.
We're all a little weird, and life's a little weird. And when we find someone whose weirdness is compatible with ours, we join up with them and fall in mutual weirdness and call it love.
And Hollywood just can't stop talking about love.
No, I don't think I will kiss you. Although you need kissing badly. You should be kissed and often, and by someone who knows how.
I'll have what she's having.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Only time can heal your broken heart. Just as only time can heal his broken arms and legs.
It wasn't love at first sight. It took a full 5 minutes.
I was nauseous and tingly all over. I was either in love or I had smallpox. Oh.
The highest level of sexual excitement is a monogamous relationship.
Love thy neighbor. And if he happens to be tall, debonair, and devastating, it'll be that much easier.
People who throw kisses are hopelessly lazy.
I'm selfish, impatient, and a little insecure. I make mistakes, I'm out of control, and at times hard to handle. But if you can't handle me at my worst, you sure as hell don't deserve me at my best.
My friends tell me I have an intimacy problem, but they really don't know me.
Lots of people want to ride with you in the limo, but what you want is someone who will take the bus with you when the limo breaks down.
When one loves one's art, no service seems too hard. That's the premise. Joe Larrabee came out of the Middle West pulsing with a genius for painting. At 6, he drew a picture of the town pump. This effort was framed and hung in the drugstore window. At 20, he left for New York with a flowing necktie. Delia Carruthers did such things with 88 keys on a piano in a village in the South that her relatives chipped in for her to go north and finish. Joe and Delia met where students gathered to discuss Wagner, Rembrandt, wallpaper, and Chopin. They became enamored and in a short time married. For when one loves one's art, no service seems too hard. Housekeeping began in a lonesome flat, something like the A sharp way down at the left-hand end of the keyboard. But they were happy. They had their art and they had each other. Joe was in class with the great Professor Magister. You know his highlights had brought him renown. Delia was studying under Herr Rosenstock. You know his repute as a disturber of the piano keys. They were mighty happy so long as their money lasted. So is everybody, but I will not be cynical. Their aims were clear. Joe would turn out pictures that old gentlemen with thin side whiskers and thick pocketbooks would sandbag each other for the privilege of buying. Delia would become so familiar with music that when she saw orchestra seats unsold, she could get a sore throat, eat lobster in a private dining room, and refuse to go on stage. But the best, in my opinion, was life in that little flat. Ardent chats, cozy dinners, the interchange of ambitions, interwoven with mutual help and inspiration and love. But after a while, everything was going out and nothing coming in. Money was lacking to pay Professor Magister and Herr Rosenstock. When one loves one's art, no service seems too hard. So Delia said she must give piano lessons to keep the landlord at bay. For 2 or 3 days, she went out canvassing for pupils. One evening, she came home elated. "Joe, dear, I've a pupil, and oh, the loveliest people. General Pinckney's daughter on 71st Street. Such a splendid house. I never saw anything like it. My pupil is his daughter, Clementina. I'm to give 3 lessons a week, and just think, $5 a lesson. When I get 2 or 3 more pupils, I can start back with Herr Rosenstock. Now, smooth out that wrinkle between your brows, dear, and let's have a nice supper." Joe attacked a can of peas with a carving knife. "Do you think I'm going to let you hustle for wages while I philander in high art? Not by the bones of Leonardo da Vinci. I guess I can sell papers or lay cobblestones to bring in $1 or 2. "Joe, you mustn't think of leaving Professor Magister. It's not as if I had quit my music. While I teach, I learn, and we can live as happily as millionaires on $15 a week. When one loves one's art, no service seems too hard." All right, Delia. You're a dear to do it. Oh, Magister praised that watercolor I made and let me hang it in his window. It'll sell if the right kind of moneyed idiot walks by. All the next week they had an early breakfast. Joe was enthusiastic about the morning light in Central Park, and Delia packed him off, coddled and kissed, at 7 o'clock. Art is an engaging mistress, and it was nearly 7 o'clock when he returned. At the end of the week, Delia, sweetly proud, tossed 3 $5 bills on the table and sighed. Sometimes Clementina tries me. I have to tell her the same thing so often. But General Pinckney is the dearest. His brother was once minister to Bolivia. But then Joe, with the dramatic air of the Count of Monte Cristo, drew forth a 10, a 5, a 2, and a 1, and laid them beside Delia's earnings. Sold that watercolor to a man from Peoria. Don't joke, not Peoria. Fat man with a woolen muffler and a toothpick. Saw it in the window and ordered another. $33. Joe, we've never had so much. Oysters tonight. And filet mignon. Delia, where's that olive fork? Next Saturday, Joe reached home first. He spread another $18 on the table and washed what seemed to be a great deal of dark paint from his hands. Half-hour later, Delia arrived, her right hand tied up in a bundle of bandages. Clementina insisted on tea after her lesson. She's so nervous she spilled it, boiling hot, all over my hand. It hurt awfully. But General Pinckney, Joe, he fussed and rushed downstairs and sent somebody, the furnace man or a servant in the basement, for salve and things to bind me up. It doesn't hurt so much now. Oh, Joe, the money there. Did you sell another? The man from Peoria, he wants a view of the Hudson. Delia, what time did you burn your hand?
5 o'clock.
Oh, you ought to have seen General Pinckney, Joe. Delia, he sat and put his arm around her. What have you really been doing for the last 2 weeks? She braved it for a moment or two, with an eye full of love and stubbornness, but at length down went her head, and out came the truth and tears. I couldn't get any pupils, and I couldn't bear to have you give up painting. I got a job ironing shirts at that big 24th Street laundry. I burned my hand on a hot iron this afternoon. You're not angry, are you, Joe? If I hadn't gotten the work, you mightn't have sold your pictures to that man from Peoria. Delia, there was no man from Peoria. I sent up the salve and the bandages. They said one of the girls upstairs burned her hand on a hot iron. I've been working in the engine room of the laundry. My purchaser from Peoria, like General Pinckney, were artistic creations, but you couldn't call them painting or music. At length they both laughed, and Joe began, "When one loves one's art," but Delia stopped him. "No, just when one loves, period."
You really shouldn't have done it. You hadn't done it right. I really shouldn't have let you kiss me. And although it was wrong, I never was strong. So as long as you've begun it, and you know you shouldn't have done it, oh, do it again. I may cry, no, 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 but do it again. My poor heart aches to have you take the kiss that's waiting for you. You know if you do, you won't regret it. Come and get it. Oh, no one is near. I may cry, oh, oh, but no one will hear. Come on, baby, let's do it again. Mama may scold me, 'cause she told me it was but then, oh, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Come on, baby. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about doing it again. Don't make me spell it out for you. Turn out the light and hold me closer all through the night. Come on, baby, let's do it again. I know tomorrow morning you will say goodbye and amen. But until then, let's do it again.
Leslie stood awaiting her lover one night, her cheeks flushed and glowing, her eyes full of light. She placed a sweet rose mid her wild flowing hair. No flower of the forest air looked half so fair as she did that night, as she stood by the door of the cot where she dwelt by the side of the moor. She heard a quick step coming over the moor, and a merry voice which she had oft heard before, and ere she could speak, a strong arm held her fast, and a manly voice whispered,
"I've come, love, at last. I'm sorry that I've kept you waiting like this, but I know you'll forgive me. Then give me a kiss."
But she shook the bright curls on her beautiful head, and she drew herself up while quite proudly she said, "Now, William, I'll prove if you really are true, for you say you love me. I don't think you do. If really you love me, you must give up the wine, for the lips that touch liquor shall never touch mine."
He looked quite amazed. "Why, Alice, 'tis clear you really are getting quite jealous, my dear."
"In that you are right," she replied. "So you see, you'll soon love the liquor far better than me. I'm jealous, I own, of the poisonous wine, and the lips that touch liquor shall never touch mine." He turned then quite angry.
"Confound it," he said.
"What
nonsense you've got in your dear little head, but I'll see if I cannot remove it from hence,"
she said. "'Tis not nonsense, 'tis plain common sense, and I mean what I say, and this you will find, I don't often change when I've made up my mind." He stood all resolute, angry, perplexed. She never before saw him look half so vexed. But she said, "If he talks all his life, I won't flinch." And he talked, but he never could move her an inch. He then bitterly cried, with a look and a groan,
"Oh, Alice, your heart is as hard as a stone."
But though her heart beat in his favour quite loud, she still firmly kept to the vow she had vowed, and at last, without even a tear or a sigh, she said, "I am going, so William, goodbye."
"Nay, stay,"
he then said.
"I'll choose one of the two. I'll give up the liquor in favour of you."
Now William had often great cause to rejoice, for the hour he had made sweet Alice his choice, and he blessed through the whole of a long useful life the fate that had given him his dear little wife. And she, by her firmness, won to us that night one who in our cause is an ornament bright. Oh, that each fair girl in our abstinence band would say, "I'll ne'er give my heart or my hand unto one who I ever had reason to think would taste one small drop of the vile cursed drink." But say, when you are wooed, "I'm a foe to the wine, and the lips that touch liquor shall never touch mine." expect the unexpected. In 1903, Grace Goodhue was watering flowers outside the Clark School for the Deaf in Massachusetts, where she taught. She looked up and she saw a man through the open window of the boarding house across the street. He was shaving, and his face was covered in shaving cream, and he was wearing long johns and a hat. Grace burst out laughing, and the man turned and looked at her. 2 years later, they were married, and as Mrs. Calvin Coolidge, she eventually became First Lady. Well, here are a few real-life text messages and posts about some other unexpected romances.
Everyone's grandparents seem to have really cute stories of how they met. And my grandparents met when my grandma was running away from police during a protest. She just jumped on the back of my granddad's motorcycle and just screamed, "Drive, damn it, drive!"
This guy in front of me walked into a lamppost, and I was so busy laughing that I walked into the same lamppost. We're going out for coffee now.
Since the beginning of the school year, I've been chemistry lab partners with one of the most beautiful and popular girls at our school. I would never have been able to talk to her otherwise, but she's totally down to earth. In the lab, we chat and laugh and get A's. Last week, I heard that she still didn't have a date to our homecoming dance, and I desperately wanted to ask her, but I chickened out every time. But at lunchtime today, she ran up and formally asked me to ask her to the dance. So I did, and she kissed me and said yes.
I have these two neighbors, and they're married, and they gotta be in their late 30s. And I'm making dinner, and I look outside, and they're running around in their pajamas and bare feet with water pistols and soaking each other and laughing so loud. And it made me realize that I'm wasting so much time trying to make every relationship perfect when all I really want is someone to laugh with.
If I ever get married, I don't want an expensive ring. I really don't. If I got a ring that was worth $15,000, I'd be mad. Do you know how many video games and Pop-Tarts we could have bought with that?
Found on the floor of an 8th grade classroom. Question: are you ready to be there when I'm mad or need to cry? And can I do things that I can't do with anyone else? Answer: yes, unless I am eating fried chicken. Question: so chicken is more important than me? Answer: no, just fried chicken, and only when I'm hungry. But if not, you are the only thing I care about.
One of my roommates works with 5th graders in this creative writing class, whatever, and they had to write a romance, and most of the kids did princesses and the usual, but this one little girl wrote about how a marshmallow fell in love with a mug of cocoa, and he loved the cocoa so much that in order to always be together, he melted. Wow, kid. That's some tight Shakespearean junk right there.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can live or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
I do not like my state of mind. I'm bitter and querulous, unkind. I hate my legs. I hate my hands. I do not yearn for lovelier land. I dread the dawn's recurrent light, but I hate to go to bed at night. I snoot at simple, earnest folk. I can't even take the gentlest stroke. I find no peace in paint or type. God, my life is but a lot of tripe. I'm disillusioned and empty-breasted. God, for what I think, I would be arrested. I'm not sick, but I am not well. My quondam dreams are shot to hell. My soul is crushed and my spirit is sore. I do not like me anymore. I cavil, quarrel, grumble, grouse. I ponder at the narrow house. I shudder at the thought of men. I'm due to fall in love again. Ugh.
My love and darling, it is 10 minutes past 8. I must tell you how much I love you at 10 minutes past 8 on a Sunday evening, January 27th, 1918. I have been indoors all day, except for posting your letter, and I feel greatly rested. There goes a train. Now it is quiet again, except for my watch. I look at the minute hand and think what a spectacle I shall make of myself when I am really coming home to you. How I shall sit in the railway carriage and put the old watch in my lap and pretend to cover it with a book, but not read or see, but just whip it up with my longing gaze and simply make it go faster. My love for you tonight is so deep and tender, it seems to be outside myself as well. I am fast shut up like a little lake in the embrace of some big mountains. If you were to climb up the mountains, you would see me down below, deep and shining and quite fathomless, my dear. You might drop your heart into me, and you'd never hear it touch the bottom. I love you. I love you. Good night. Oh, bogey, what it is to love like this.
Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the sea's gone dry. Till all the sea's gone dry, my dear, and the rocks melt in the sun, and I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. And fare thee well, my only love, and fare thee well a while. And I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 miles.
Wild nights, were I with thee, wild nights would be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart, rowing in Eden, ah, the sea, might I but more tonight in thee.
I'll be loving you always with a love that's true always. When the things you've planned need a helping hand, I will understand always, always. Days may not be fair always. That's when I'll be there always. Not for just an hour, not for just a day, not for just a year, but always. Never love anyone who treats you like you're ordinary. A beautiful sentiment from Oscar Wilde, but he also cautioned, the truth is rarely pure and never simple. So Jack learns in Oscar Wilde's the importance of being earnest, because pretending to be named Ernest presents quite a problem when he has this important conversation with Gwendolen.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have ever met since I met you.
Yes, I'm quite well aware of the fact. And I often wish that in public, at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolen?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
Oh, my own Ernest.
But you don't really mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
Oh, yes, I know it is, but supposing it was something else, do you really mean to say you couldn't love me then?
Ah. That is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life, as we know them.
Personally, darling, to speak quite candidly, I don't much care about the name of Ernest. I don't think the name suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, Gwendolen, I must say that I think there are lots of other, much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? No. There's very little music in the name Jack. If any at all, indeed. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I've known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. The only really safe name is Ernest.
Gwendolen, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There is no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Surely. You know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you were not utterly indifferent to me.
I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Oh, Gwendolen!
Yes, Mr. Worthing? What have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolen, Will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling! How long you've been about it. I'm afraid you have had very little experience in how to propose.
My own one? I've never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully brown eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite brown. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Spoiler alert. Jack and Gwendolyn go through many romantic complications before they finally arrive at happily ever after. But Shakespeare warned us, the course of true love never did run smooth. So let's turn to some more status updates from social media that prove that sometimes love's labors remain lost.
Today, a cute guy from one of my classes messaged me on a dating website. He wanted help with the homework.
My girlfriend just broke up with me after I told her I have never watched The Lion King.
Today I found out my boyfriend has a Facebook account. He said he didn't. Apparently he's not divorced yet either. I don't know about this wine.
Today I found out that my fiance is already married when his wife showed up at my door. That was about the same time she found out that her husband is gay and that Ashley can be a man's name.
My ex-fiance's new boyfriend just phoned to ask what her ring size is.
This evening, my blind date tried to sell me a vacuum cleaner. I bought it.
Today, for the first time in my life, a gal hit on me. Specifically, a lesbian who thought I was a girl.
Senior year, and I finally received my first love letter. It's just too bad it's from the guy that lit me on fire 2 months ago.
Dear neighbors, last night I put a cute love note on my wife's car. Turns out I had the wrong car. If this was yours, I apologize for the confusion. I am not in love with you. Sorry.
My dad made me and my boyfriend break up. Not because my boyfriend was a bad influence, but because I was.
Today, the priest at my wedding farted. Everyone thought it was me. The guests, my bride, even the priest looked at me in disgust.
Nellie Green met Harry Lee at a masquerade the other night. He liked she and she liked he, just a case of love at single sight. He took Nellie home that eve, also took the number of her phone. Just before he took his leave, Nellie whispered in the cutest tone, "Call me up some rainy afternoon. I'll arrange for a quiet little spoon. Think of all the joy and bliss. We can hug and we can talk about the weather. We can have a quiet little talk. I will see that my mother takes a walk. Mum's the word when we meet. Be a mason, don't repeat. Angel eyes, are you wise? Goodbye." He looked wise, then looked for rain. Sure enough, it rained that Saturday. "Give me 3, 4, 5, 6 Main. Nellie dear, prepare, I'm on my way." When he rang the front door bell, no one there responded to his call. Then he heard his little Nell singing to somebody in the hall. Call me up some rainy afternoon. I'll arrange for a quiet little spoon. Think of all the joy and bliss. We can hug and we can talk about the weather. We can have a quiet little talk. I will see that my mother takes a walk. Mum's the word when we meet. Be a mason, don't repeat. Angel eyes, are you wise? Goodbye.
Love can be comic, and love can be tragic. But at times, there's something beautiful and eternal about the saddest love stories. Here are two mythical legends from Mexico and one from Japan, with a Broadway torch song in between.
The great volcanoes Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl stand watch over Mexico City. An ancient myth tells the story of these two mountains. Long ago, during the time of the Aztec Empire, a war broke out between two nations. The king sent his finest warrior, Popocatépetl, with the promise that if he returned victorious, he would gain the hand of his beloved, the king's daughter, Iztaccíhuatl. But while she pined for her warrior, a rival courtier whispered news that Popocatépetl had been killed in battle. In the deep misery of heartbreak, the distraught princess took her own life. When Popocatépetl returned, the triumph of his victory was dashed when he discovered the death of his true love. The great warrior wept in agony for 7 days. Then he ordered 10 hills to be gathered together, topped with a great tomb under the sun. Popocatépetl lifted Iztaccíhuatl in his arms and bore her up higher and higher, finally laying her upon the summit. After kissing her cold lips, he kept vigil nearby until snow covered them both, and there they remain to this day. The mountain, Iztaccíhuatl, resembles a sleeping woman, while the volcanic clouds from Popocatépetl are the passion of his undying love. The city of Guanajuato is filled with narrow passageways, small courtyards, and winding steps. This is the story of one such place. There once lived a beautiful young woman named Anna, the daughter of a proud, wealthy mine owner from Spain. He was determined his daughter would only marry another wealthy Spaniard. This was in the days of the colonies when the ruling class never mixed with indigenous people. However, one day as she returned from Mass, Anna met a humble laborer named Carlos, whose family was native to that region. Both knew instantly this was love. Defying her father's wishes, Anna began meeting Carlos in secret. But rumors were whispered to her father, and one evening he followed Anna and caught the pair together by a courtyard fountain. Furious, the father threw Anna into her upstairs bedroom and bolted the door, vowing to wed her to an old, rich nobleman from Spain. Heartbroken, Carlos stood outside Anna's house, looking up at the high balcony from the alley below. And he saw, so narrow was the alley, another balcony facing her bedroom within touching distance. Hope stirred his heart, and Carlos knocked on the door of the house across the alley and asked to rent the room with the balcony. It cost him every coin he had, but Carlos secured the room. He ran upstairs and from the balcony called for Anna. She came out at the sound of his voice. The two lovers embraced high over the narrow alleyway.
When the mellow moon begins to beam, every night I dream a little dream. And of course, Prince Charming is the theme. The he for me. Although I realize as well as you, it is seldom that a dream comes true. To me, it's clear that he'll appear. Someday he'll come along, the man I love, and he'll be big and strong, the man I love. And when he comes my way, I'll do my best to make him stay. He'll look at me and smile, I'll understand, and in a little while he'll hold my hand. And though it seems absurd, I know we both won't say a word. Maybe I will meet him Sunday, maybe Monday, maybe not. But I'm sure to meet him one day, maybe Tuesday will be my good news day. He'll build just meant for two, from which I'll never roam. Who would you? And from all else above, I'm waiting for the man I love.
Once upon a time, ancient Japan was torn apart by war and destruction. Battles between the samurai raged, though the sacred forest remained untouched. But there was one tree, deep in the forest, that never blossomed and never grew any leaves. The birds never perched on its branches, and grass never grew around it. Loneliness was its only companion. One night, a woodland spirit took pity on the barren tree and cast a spell that would endure 20 years. It would allow the tree to become human at will and feel as human hearts do. If its search for happiness proved successful, it would blossom with fragrance and beauty evermore. But if not, it would wither and die. The tree was transformed into a young man named Yohiro. But everywhere he journeyed, he only encountered war and division, until finally one day, he came across a beautiful maiden named Sakura weeping by a stream. "What grieves you, maiden?" Sakura responded that the hatred in the land was too much to bear. Yohiro couldn't reveal his true identity, but just simply said, "I too long for contentment. Could we at least meet here and tell stories of love and sing songs of happiness and write poems of beauty?" And so they met by the stream time and time again. Yohiro could feel his friendship was bursting into love until one day he couldn't contain himself anymore. Sakura blushed pink and said that she too felt her unhappiness transform into love. "But my time is growing short," Yohiro said, "and I must confess something I've kept from you." Yohiro told Sakura of the spirit's spell and of his true identity. Sakura was silent for a moment, but when she looked up, Yohiro could see that her face was filled with confusion and hurt. "I trusted you with my heart. I sang my song and told my story, but you were not honest. Let me go. I cannot stay here." And as she left, Yohiro felt the stab deep in his heart. He longed to run after her, but felt paralyzed. He could feel his feet sinking back into the earth and his arms stretched out like branches. He was transforming back into the barren tree. Vitality and joy seeped from him. All night long, the barren tree clung to the banks of the streams, for he knew his time was ending. Until dawn glimmered and a figure appeared far away. It drew closer. Yes, it was Sakura returning. But as she gazed on the tree, and in her grief she began to weep. But from her tears, the woodland spirit appeared. "Sakura, what Yohiro told you is true. What have you seen since you departed? Only destruction and hatred? I do not wish to be a part of that world. I long only to be with Yohiro and tell stories of love and sing songs of happiness and write poems of beauty." And with those words, the miracle happened. Yohiro and Sakura became one. Leaves unfurled and blossoms burst forth with a delicacy and a beauty that the forest had never known, and with a fragrance that filled the land. And from then on, every spring when the cherry blossoms appear, people pause and take a moment to celebrate peace and joy and love.
the miracle of peace and joy and love. Well, that seems like a fitting place to conclude, doesn't it? From all of us here at Yellow Tree Theater, thank you so much for watching, and when the time is right, we hope to see you back at the theater. But now, let's let William Shakespeare and our real-life family take us out.
Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments,
Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds.
or bends with the remover to remove.
Oh no!
It is an ever fixed mark.
Which looks on tempest and is never shaken.
It is the star to every wandering bark, whose words unknown, although his height be taken.
Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come.
Love alters not within his brief hours and weeks,
but bears it out even to the edge of doom.
If this be error and upon me proved,
I never writ,
nor no man ever loved.